Incoming transmission. Radio Rebellion.
Welcome to the Rebellion, another episode of Star Wars. I don't even know. Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, Alberto. How are you guys doing? And thank you for joining us again on a great Saturday evening. And as always, I mess up my intros because I don't know the name of my show, and even that phrase that I use now has been taken over by a certain part of the fandom that we don't talk too much about them here, but so I'll just mention it real quick because I put this out on Twitter a few days ago. And, since season 1, we'll be starting this show by saying, welcome to the Rebellion. And now with everything happened with Gina Carano and all that stuff, they're using this phrase as their calling card or whatever you want to call their war cry or their battle cry. And I don't appreciate it because I don't want to be associated with everything else that she's doing and the people following her. But we've been doing it. We've been saying it for a while. I don't think I'm going to be changing it. But if things keep going and this becomes something else, then maybe we'll change into something else. But right now, we are the Rebellion, not those people out there. So thank you guys for being here. We're going to have a great show today. We have a great guest. We have another guest in studio. You can't see. It's my dog, Kyber. She's down there. I'm just petting her. So you might see some dog hair flying around. But hopefully my camera is not that 4K HD. So maybe you won't see it. But all right, I think that's enough. I usually spend like 5 minutes talking to you guys and then bring on our guest, but we had a lot to talk to her about. She's one of my favorite people out there to follow on Twitter. So you know what? Let's go ahead and bring her first before I start. Usually when I bring on a guest, I go, oh, so you know this person from X podcast or X YouTube show. She's everywhere. So I could go through a list of 20 different things, but we're just going to do one first and then we'll talk to her about it. So you might know her from her YouTube Star Wars show. Let's talk about Star Wars. It's Maggie Lovitt. How you doing, Maggie?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
Doing great also. Thanks for being here. Like I mentioned, I had seen you in some of the other shows you had been on. You're on Star Wars Friends show. And that's where I saw you there a few times where I used to watch that show, I think all on Saturdays or something. You guys also did a few things. And I had the honor and privilege of months and months ago, last year, to be invited by our friend Candace from the Geeky Waffle on her Siege of Mandalore kind of roundtable that she did back last year. I think it was last year. Everything melts together. And you were one of the other panelists there, and that's when we first interacted. I know that episode when it went 20 different ways that we're not going to
It's an infamous episode. It'll live in infamy.
Yeah. You should go, and if you haven't watched it, after you watch this, it's linked on my channel. You can go to the Geeky Waffle channel, and you'll find it. It's a great 2-hour talk. It delves into something at the end that has just grown into something even worse. But it was extremely fun. That's where, like I said, when I first had the chance of talking with you, from there I started following you on Twitter. You're a great person to follow. I don't want to say you say what's on your mind, but
I do.
You do, but that's people say, I just say what's on my mind, whatever. But you know what you're talking about, not just Star Wars in general. So very happy that I got the chance to know you and follow you on Twitter since then. And since then, I also been with you on a few other Mandalorian talks, also with the Geeky Waffle on yourself that you co-hosted. And then I say, I got to get her here on Radio Rebellion at some point. And here we are now. So again, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So like I said, so you have your own Star Wars YouTube show that you started fairly recent. Yeah. Let's talk about Star Wars. So let's start with that one. Where did the idea for the show came and why did you decide, okay, finally going to start my own show?
My mom, actually. So my mom loves watching YouTube like shows. She likes doing this thing called mudlarking, which is like when you go to rivers and you look for like artifacts that have
Okay.
like washed up. And so she watches a bunch of people who do like shows about that. And she was like, why don't you have a YouTube channel? And I was like, well, like I wanted to do one because like I've been on YouTube since like 2007 when YouTube started. I was like, but like I never thought about content creation. I always enjoyed just watching other people do stuff. And, you know, after kind of finding some success in doing podcasting, so I'd been terrified about the concept of podcasting. And last year was like so much fun. And like, I was like, why don't I just do it? And so like, we like set up my room, like redecorated everything, made it into more of like a like recording studio. And here I am. I think tomorrow will be the 21st episode.
Wow. Goes by
crazy.
quick, right?
It goes so fast.
Yeah, I think this is my 56th show. So
oh my
it's
gosh,
like,
congratulations.
I remember my first one in the little corner of my room next to a window. My wife was probably in the back just going like this, what the hell is he talking about? And I was
they always look like ransom videos. Like the first one you do, like the lighting is terrible. You're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
A little, help me. Just put down on the comments, someone call 911.
Blink twice if you need help.
Yeah. And I used to say I used to say a phrase a lot that my wife walked in one day with a little sign with it, kind of. I used to say kind of every other sentence. She walked into one day with a little sign saying kind of. She posted it on the wall. And first I was a little bit mad because she interrupted my great show. And then every time I was about to say it, I could see it there. And then I stopped saying it. I'm like, okay, of course she knows what she was doing. So, but I've seen that show a couple of times. It's pretty cool. It's a different type of Star Wars show. It's not going through the weekly news or whatever. So, oops, I just hit my computer. Is there, if you need to explain your show to someone, is there an easy way to explain it, or just it's Star Wars and we're talking about it?
Honestly, I feel like it's a look into my mind. It's like whatever has happened during the week that's like really caught my attention. Like the week when Christina was being harassed, I like didn't feel comfortable doing something fun. So I just talked about that and was like, hey, you need to be doing this, like talking like to her and encouraging her. So I feel like it's kind of an extension of my Twitter feed. So like whatever I'm talking about there is usually what ends up being in my video. So I feel like it's just like an extension of my Twitter personality, I guess.
So like we mentioned before, you're part of the Star Wars Friends Show podcast and also the YouTube show. You have another podcast, let me get this right, Petticoats and Puppies podcast. What's that one about? A little bit different for Star Wars.
So last year I was co-hosting over on the Cantina cast with Albert. And he was like, you're pretty good at this. Like, have you thought about doing like your own podcast? And I was like, not really. I was like, would it have to be Star Wars? And he was like, no, like whatever comes to your mind. And my best friend, Nicole, and I, we've known each other for like 10 years. We both went to school for history, but now we both work in the film industry. I'm an actor and she's a film critic. So it's like we took this weird route into this like kind of combination of like two things we love, which is like history and film. And so I instantly texted her and I was like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And like within a week, we had like a name, we had branding, we had our first episode running. We're actually 1 year anniversary is March 14th. Oh, cool. So it's like crazy that a year's passed already. But yeah, it's an intersection of like historical dramas like Pride and Prejudice or Ammonite, like different historical films while looking at it through a historical lens and then a film critic lens. Okay. So
I haven't checked that out. I'll have to. I'm not the biggest historical. I do like history and all that. And I guess as I get older, I start getting into more of those things. So I'll have to check it out. And am I correct that you're also thinking about starting a Doctor Who podcast?
Yeah, so Charlie Ashby from Imperial State podcast, he also had this idea for having myself and Alden from Octu Radio watch the old Who, since he's like watched all of it. So like he's like the doctor and we're his companions, like going through this old Who journey. Because I used to be really big into Doctor Who pre-Moffat. Okay. So it's kind of returning to something that was like almost Star Wars level obsession for a period of time in my life.
Yeah, I got into Doctor Who not like that. No, I never watched the old ones. I knew what it was because I have heard about it. And then I think by the 11th Doctor, there was so much people talking about it. I think it was either on Netflix or Amazon or somewhere. So, okay, let me start with the Ninth Doctor. And I fell in love with it. That was
love the
my
Ninth
Doctor. How
Doctor.
are you going to change him and then bring this other guy? And then I forget his name.
David Tennant.
David Tennant. Then he just blew it out of the park. By the end of it, we were all crying and everything. And then they take him away. But it's a great show. I stopped watching it. I got to go back. But good luck with that one when it comes out. We'll sure to check it. I mean, Doctor Who fans out there, Whovians or whatever you pronounce that.
Whovians, yeah.
There's a lot of out there, so I'm
There's
sure
a lot.
And then we also mentioned, at least when we were talking before, you co-host every Friday with the Geeky Waffle, a WandaVision kind of rewind also. Why do you do all this? Because I do one show once a week and it takes it out of me. You do like 20, apart from writing, acting, you have your own website. So why? You're nuts, I guess, but why?
I am crazy. That's why I always say, like, I'm not happy if I'm not busy. So, like, right now, I'm writing a book. I'm working on an audio drama. I write for 2 different websites. Like, I do all of this different stuff. And I feel like if I was too quiet, you should be concerned if I'm not doing something. And I like creating. So COVID's been hard.
Yeah, I know. I guess that's that we mentioned at first, those first episodes, you think you're in a hostage situation. That's yours. If we don't hear from Maggie in a day or something, let's find
something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Let's find out. So you said you write for a few websites. You write for Your Money Geek. You have a lot of reviews there. You do your own stories, your own novels, like you're saying. You're also an actor. Most notably or most recently, you were in Wonder Woman 84. You've talked about how these were some of the best weeks in your life. Can you try to explain to us a little bit what all that was about? Or, just the whole experience, I guess.
Oh my gosh. So to start, I jokingly say that I accidentally made a wish and got it. I was working on this TV show that got canceled. It was like one day. It was the worst day I've ever had on set, and was my first day going back into like acting stuff, because I had done it in like 2015 and 2009, and then like work got in the way, and then I finally, like in 2018, I was like, I'm going back. I'm doing extra work again because there's a lot of stuff happening here in the area. And a friend of mine, who's now my friend, but was a complete stranger that day, was talking about that he had worked on background for Captain America when they had shot some stuff in DC. And he was like, what kind of superhero movies would like you like to like be in? And I was like, oh man, I love Wonder Woman, because it was like a year after the first one came out. And I was like, but it's never going to come here. Like, that's just not a thing. And he's like, yeah, I don't see how they would ever do Wonder Woman in DC. And then I was like, I really wish that would happen, though. That'd be like the coolest experience. And then about a month later, I was working on House of Cards. And I was just like, one day I was working as like a camera operator for like a conference that was being shot or whatever.
A lot of conferences in that show.
So much. But Robin Wright was there, which that was cool.
That's cool.
But the casting director came up and was like, hey, what are you doing this summer? And I was like,
wow.
Like, if you're ever working on a TV show and like they ask you, you're free. You never say you have any conflicts. And I was free. So I was like, yeah, I'm free. I have no conflicts. I'm not going anywhere. And he's like, could you work for like a month? And I was like, yeah.
Sure.
I was like, where? And he's like, oh, just like in DC. And I was like, that's fine. It's like 45 minutes from my house. A week later, it was announced that Wonder Woman was going to be filming in Virginia. And that was what I got booked for.
Did you know it before, or when you saw it's going to Virginia, you started, maybe this is it?
So I was told the show was called Magic Hour. But I didn't know what that was code name for, because that didn't make sense. And then that's how we found out, was later on, a couple weeks before I went in for my costume fitting, they said that Magic Hour was the code name for Wonder Woman. And I was just like,
what?
I made this wish, and then it came true. And it was the best experience of my life. I worked for 30 days, absolutely like would do it again in a heartbeat. I miss it every day. I made so many great friends. Like, got to talk to Patty Jenkins, who's now going to be directing for Star Wars.
Well done. So who knows? Maybe you'll get a call in a few months. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
You're free. Forget about that 20 podcast. So if you ever hear anything coming to North Central Florida, let me know. I'll make myself free. I'm sure I can get a few days.
Sometimes stuff does film down there. You would be surprised.
No, they done a few. What was it? Devil's Advocate. I think it's in Gainesville, that area, which is next to where I am. So, yes, Kyber, make a wish, maybe. So let's talk about this real important thing. Before Mandalorian season 2 started, actually before that, let me say hi to a few people out there. I always try not to forget about our friends. So Dale Erdman is here saying hi to both of us. Hi Dale, thank you for being here. Always nice seeing you. And Nicole from Peace Love Star Wars is here also. Hi Nicole. So again, thanks you. It's always great we get a few guests on the show.
Excellent.
So we're talking Mandalorian season 2. So we need to bring up this. We'll talk more about it later, but other things happening with Gina Carano, some of her comments that she had made or insinuations or whatever, you decided along with Eric and Candace from Geeky Waffle to start this fundraiser, this GoFundMe, Trans Life or Human Rights, This Is the Way. Can you talk a little bit more about how that's going, how it started? I know you had a goal to hit and then it just blew past.
That was amazing.
And it's still open, right?
Yes. It still gives me tears like in my eyes when I think about just like how quick the Star Wars fandom rallied around the cause. I can't even remember what Gina had said that day. I think it was like the very beginning of the whole pronouns thing. Sure. And everyone on my feed was like really angry and just like tweeting anger. And I was like, but that's not doing anything. Like it's one thing to be angry. Tweets do very little. Like, what can I do as an ally to be an advocate? Like to actually, because advocacy is nothing without action. And so I like put out a tweet. I was like, does anybody want to help me do this? Because I was really uncomfortable with the idea of it just being me. Like I didn't want it to be a one ring circus and it was just me doing it. I wanted this to be a community thing. And like instantly Eric and Candace reached out to me, and within like 3 or 4 hours, we had everything set up. Candace had made graphics for everything and we just started pushing it. Our first goal was $500 and we thought, this will be great. We'll just do like $500. It'd be great. Literally within like 30 minutes, we hit the $500 goal, and we are now over $20,000. We were initially going to close it on the finale, but GoFundMe is weird, and like if you completely cancel out a fundraiser, it like deletes the proof of it. Like the existence of it would have been gone. And like, I didn't really want to lose that like history because so many people had shared comments and there's just so much support. So like, let's just leave it open. And then people have been steadily donating to it because there's been, a couple incidents that warrant celebration recently. And it's been great to see, so many people from Lucasfilm, so many people who have worked on Star Wars rallied around it. And I think it's just fantastic. It's been so humbling. Yeah,
it's great. I remember when this started, how it just keeps growing. For you guys, if you don't know too much about this, the link is down on the description of this video. Just click on it. You'll find it there. Donate, promote it, do whatever you can. It's very important for everyone. It's human rights. It doesn't matter. I don't know why it's so complicated for people. We're all the same.
Yes, we all deserve the same rights.
I know.
Just to be respected.
With everything happening now in Congress and this thing that just passed in the House, and this is not a politics. I mean, Star Wars politics. We know, but please just treat everyone nice. So with this same thing, kind of where this started, social media. And then recent comments again by Gina Carano on that interview that she did. They threw you, not without naming you, and everyone kind of gave you incredible titles. But we can talk about that a little bit if you want, but how do you navigate social media in this age when any simple comment, especially unfortunately for female fans or LGBTQ community, anything that they said or do, it's amplified 20% and always taken the negative way? How do you try to navigate social media, trying sometimes not to let it affect you? And when do you say, you know what, I'm going to engage in this and try to put a stop on it? Or I don't know. It's different for me with someone like you. Yeah,
it's an experience. I try not to let it get to me, which I recognize is like a privilege that I have, that I've been online for so long. I started playing on the internet when I was like 6 years old. Yeah.
My daughter is 10 and she was 90s. On YouTube today. I'm like, what are you watching? Let me see. What's that?
I was definitely on corners of the internet. I had no place to be in, but it was like the 90s and like whatever. So like I'm unfortunately used to like getting hate online. So like I'm fairly jovial about it, but there does like reach a threshold where it's like exhausting. And I try to just like enjoy the things I like, just block,
Sure.
run blockchains, try to block out as much of it as possible. But this past week, I was getting them on Instagram. I've got almost every single one of my videos on YouTube has been thumbs down like a dozen times. I've been having nasty comments on my Facebook Messenger and like all sorts of places. And like everyone was like, oh, just lock down. And I was like, but I don't want to have to restrict my existence. So I'm like, I'm just deleting. I'm not giving them the pleasure of being like, oh, we made her lock her accounts.
Yeah, it's one of those complicated things just from my point of view, which again, it's very different to other people that I've been online, at least doing this show a little bit over a year. And if I gotten 4 comments just because I say something, that might be a stretch. So I can't really comment too much on it. So I engage sometimes, but not just hateful. I just try to, oh, what, this is making you mad, this stupid thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like, why don't I even bother? I know they're not going to change their mind. So I end the conversation there. And then sometimes you hear people say, don't give them the time of day. That's what they want. They want attention. And then the other side, really? But if you don't say anything, they're just going to keep going. We have to put them in their place. So it's that delicate balance that I don't know exactly how to deal with it. Again, thankfully for me, I guess, again, a privilege not having to deal with it. But it's sad when it comes into my feed, attacking people that I know, like you, so many others that I've had the pleasure of knowing, because I know we just interact through this.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's
an experience.
Yeah. I wish you didn't have anyone I would have had to have. But so this is Star Wars. It's your first time here. So what's your Star Wars story? If you remember, first time watching, maybe not the first time watching Star Wars, what made you a super fan to then decide to go through the lens that you're going out doing all these different shows? By super fan, again, you're a fan. That's another thing. What made you a fan of Star Wars and want to dedicate part of your life to it?
The first time I saw it, when it first came out, I was obviously quite young. My dad took me to see The Phantom Menace opening weekend. I had no real frame of reference for what Star Wars was, except like it had been a film that my parents had seen in theaters, so it was old, but this was new. And I sat down and was like, oh, this is going to be so boring. Same thought that I had for Lord of the Rings, mind you. I just instantly assumed whatever my parents had watched was going to be boring. And from that first opening crawl to just like how the Phantom Menace like unfolds, I was hooked. Qui-Gon Jinn was my favorite character. You would think that because I was like 6 that I would have liked like Anakin. No, I could care less about him until he was Hayden Christensen. Sorry, Jake Lloyd. Qui-Gon Jinn, and then died. And I was like a mess when I came out of the theaters. And my mom was like, why did you take her to see this movie if this is how she's going to be? But I have like the KB Toys, the toy store that was like super popular in malls in the 90s. I have a Qui-Gon Jinn and a Padme. It was the Comlinks toys. I don't have the Comlinks anymore. I have the action figures. And then I started reading all of the books. I read fairly advanced for my age. So like my mom was like, let's go to the bookstore and like get you this stuff if this is going to be your new thing. And yeah, it's been 22 years, I guess, this year.
Wow. Yes. It's so since you mentioned books, let me say hi to someone that was here a few weeks ago. Our friend Andrew from Outer Rim Reads. Just in time, when they mention books, he just pops up.
He knows.
Star Wars book, where? I gotta be there. And thank you, Andrew, for helming the show when I lost power a few weeks ago when he was here. There was a thunderstorm here, and my internet just went out for a few minutes. And I thought everything was locked down. Okay, well, the stream ended. And then my daughter goes, well, what if it comes back? Or what's happening at your show? Oh, let me check on my phone. And it's still going. And Andrew's talking. I'm like, oh, my God, I got to get back. Power came back. The internet was back on. So I was able to log on. Thank you, Andrew, again. Like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, he just kept going. So, yes, thank you, Andrew. Next time, hopefully there's no incidents. And I'll take a little bit of issue with what you said. Oh, my parents went to Star Wars, so they're old. So I went when I was 3 years old. I saw Return of the Jedi in the theaters. I was born in 1980, so 83. So I was there. I am old, but
Well, my parents were adults and married when A New Hope came out.
yeah. Oh, all right. Yeah, you won't take over the stream. Well, I don't believe you. We'll see.
Maybe he knocked the power out on
Maybe
purpose.
he knows. He's got something. Lord of the Rings, real quick, because that's my other. Lord of the Rings and Star Wars is right there. I went into Lord of the Rings not knowing anything about what it was. I didn't know it was a book. The first image I saw was in Yahoo News or Yahoo Movies, whenever this website still existed, late 90s, with was Frodo, the first picture of Frodo. Oh, they're doing Lord of the Rings. I'm like, what's this? It's Lord of the Dance. What the hell, rings? I'm 18 years old, so I don't know what the hell is going on. I saw the first trailer, and that blew me away. I was a huge fan of role-playing games growing up in console games, Sega and Nintendo. So I was, okay, this looks my speed. When I went into the movies for The Fellowship, just blew my mind. I think I had the same experience that people had when they watched Star Wars for the first time. I didn't know something like that was possible. The scope of it, all the different characters, seeing elves and dwarves and humans and archers and all these big, huge battles and orcs and goblins. It took me to another level. Yes. It's still, if every time I watch those three movies, and I can't decide which one is my favorite, Star Wars, especially with the original trilogy, 95% of the people, it's an Empire Strikes Back is the best one. For Lord of the Rings, I've gone through all three. Which one's my favorite? I have no idea. I tend to navigate to Fellowship because I had that experience the first time, but then I watched Return of the King and it's just too much. But then some of the things in Rohan, with Theoden and Aragorn is just another great. So it's
hard.
Yeah.
I always liked Two Towers, but there was the PlayStation video game. There was a level I couldn't beat, and like to this day, I still like am annoyed that I couldn't finish it. So I associate like Two Towers with this annoyance.
So
but Return of the King is so good.
Yeah, the thing, Return of the King. First, I know we're supposed to be talking about Mandalorian, but we'll get there eventually. So I had the game that had the three movies. I can't remember the name of it, and I passed Fellowship of the Ring, but I couldn't pass the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yes,
I never got to the Return of the King part. Those freaking orcs killed me in top of Helm's
with the
Deep.
trebuchets, right?
I don't even know.
We had to like run back and forth and like load the trebuchet, and it like never worked.
I couldn't pass it, so I feel you. 2 Towers. And then Return of the King, when I saw it in the theaters, even though it blew me away because it was so great, I felt it's just a set scene here. It's a set scene, there's a battle, we go to another set scene. It felt very mechanical or something. So, okay, I still like 2 Towers. But the more I watch it, it's like, no, there's so much there. Aragorn's journey is so incredible.
Yes.
Then being a father now and seeing his future with Arwen, and when she sees a son at the end and what her dad is doing to her, no, but don't you love me and all this. I'm like, but they're supposed to be swords and axe. Why are you making me feel like this?
Where did these emotions come from?
Yeah, these teary things. So Dale is saying that for him, Star Wars, Now A New Hope, he saw when he was 7 when it came out. So Dale, sorry that we're calling old people out. You're not old. We like you, Dale. And you give us that perspective of people that saw it in the theaters. And Andrew saying that for him, Fellowship equals Star Wars equals Kings is all fantastic. And that's a great way to go into it. So going back to Star Wars, you mentioned when you did your fundraiser for Transrite that just tweeting about it wasn't enough. You wanted to be involved in it. I've also mentioned that a lot of these came to you. Let me rephrase that. Watching Rogue One changed your view of how to be active out there, which is a great story that if you don't mind sharing it, because for me, when we usually talk about how movies make us feel, especially in Star Wars and something like Rogue One, you have all the different cast members, you have a Latino lead with Diego Luna. So a lot of people might think that myself as a Puerto Rican gravitate to that, which I love the movie, but that's not why. And when someone might say, oh, Rogue One is your favorite movie, the reason behind it is very different, not just, because it's Star Wars is what it meant to you. So if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, that movie like truly changed me. like I was very active in politics here in my community, but after a certain election, I was feeling like very downhearted. Like I didn't know where to go. I couldn't see a future because I was so scared of like the possibilities. And so I was very like, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to just like throw my hands up. I tried, like there's nothing can happen. People are just not going to change. And I sat down in Rogue One. I had not really been involved with fandom in a way that I knew what I was to expect. I knew it was before A New Hope, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew everyone was going to die. That was something that was like, I think I read a review or something and like had seen that everyone dies. So I kind of knew what was going to happen with that, but I didn't expect to the way that it is laid out. Jyn Erso was such a relatable character for me because she has this like privilege of being like, I'm not going to be involved in this. This isn't my fight. This isn't like my thing. And she sees all of these people that make a rebellion and how she chooses to actively be part of it and to make those sacrifices. And I was like, there's no change without sacrifice. And like, it's not about me, it's about the greater good. And I came out of that and I was just like, well, I guess I have to like actually do something. I have to work. And so I helped on a mayoral campaign. I helped on delegate campaigns. I like was out meeting people, helping with like all sorts of different caucuses and like trying to stay as involved as possible. Cause I was like, we can't do this if we just sit back and say somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah.
And like Cassian was such like an eye-opening like character for me because the way that he talks to Jyn about like how I never had a choice in this, like this has been my entire existence. Like you can go say like, I don't want to be involved with this, but I don't have that privilege. And that was like, I was like, okay, so I see how I should actually be doing. I shouldn't be Jyn until the end. Like, and just, it changed. Like I watched that movie like once a week ever since I first saw it, because it gave me the push that I needed. And it's kind of just been an undercurrent ever since.
Yeah. Like Outer Rim Reed says, great message, Maggie, no change without sacrifice. I love it. And again, it's one of those great things about Star Wars. And like Rogue One, why do you like Rogue One? Oh, Darth Vader at the end. That's usually what people go. Or the last third of the movie, the space battle is just amazing. But no, there's a different reason why movies, Star Wars especially, resonate to a lot of us. And it's when I heard you, I think you made a Twitter thread about this a while back, and that's when I read it the first time. I've heard from you that Rogue One was your favorite movie, one of your favorite movies, and Cassian Andor was that character. And again, it's like when people mention Cassian, you're, oh, why? See a Hispanic person saying this? No, it's a white woman, because the message of the movie is not, yeah, look, Darth Vader at the end, that's awesome, that's popcorn time, but the message of the movie is this and how it's impacted your life going forward. So again, Star Wars, it's for everyone, and we all find a different message with all of it. So with that, let's go ahead. Before we start with our main talk about The Mandalorian, I got my great Mando shirt that my wife
I have Boba Fett on.
There you go. I had my Boba Fett hat on, but for some reason I wasn't feeling it today. I had to shave. Something was wrong. I let my hair grow, so I couldn't just do something. It's a mess right now. So
oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. It's too much right now. I know. So let me put this back on. And I didn't want to waste 2 gallons of gel for an hour and a half. So let me put Star Wars on. It measures a little bit more. My Mando shirt that my wife gave me for Valentine's Day. I'm the easiest person to shop for. I have a lot of trouble with her because there's so many things that we need to worry about. And she said, let's give me something Star Wars. That's fine. And yes, Star Wars. So before we go to Mandalorian, let me bring this picture up, or let's talk about this real quick, because you've mentioned about the High Republic, how much you like the High Republic and all that stuff.
Yes.
And of course, the eye of the now, Marchion Ro. So let's talk about him real quick. So let's talk, like I said, let's talk about the High Republic and Marchion Ro real quick. Before we get into your thoughts on it, I should say. I'm sorry, there we go. I needed Martian as my guest for a little bit. So the first book I got of the High Republic was A Test of Courage. So that one came in a little bit before. I had tweeted out there. I think you replied saying, just read it. There's little spoilers, so don't wait for Light of the Jedi. So I read Test of Courage, great book. And then finally Light of the Jedi came in. I started reading. And before that, a lot of people had tweeted out how great they now were, how everyone was in love with Martian Rowe. Like, okay, I gotta figure this out because he looks great. And I started reading halfway through the book. I'm like, okay, then I look good. I say they're a pyramid scheme, and Martian Rowe is there. That's a pyramid scheme, you know. And he's talking about, oh, I get a plan. I have my own plan, but they now need to change. I'm like, dude, you're not getting me. And then the end of the book, or the last 100 page or whatever, when he beats Kassav to the ground and cuts his hand off, and then like the other Nile says, she said, oh, she saw him for what he was, a predator. And then his whole plan gets laid out. And then, okay, I'm getting it. But quick thoughts on the High Republic, and then quick, if you can, why you gravitate to Martian Rowe so much?
Oh, so I love the High Republic. I love that we're not held back by any of the current canon, that it's all back in the back, like so long ago that they can do anything and they can come up with all sorts of stories, and it doesn't really affect anything we've currently seen. So I love that. Yeah. Anytime that you can, and also like they're able to retroactively add things. Oh no, yeah, so I won't spoil too much.
He hasn't, I'm not going to say why, because he has his own reasons. He hasn't read Light of the Jedi. He's going to explain soon. So it was 5 minutes, and then you can come back. So, well, yeah, Andrew, it's great.
But there, I just love that we can retroactively add to the current canon without like retconning anything really. Yeah. And I also just love this writing team. I think they all handle their genres with extreme like grace and ability. Like I read a lot of young adult fic, and like it's just what I get from Disney because I get it for work. So I've read so much. And some people have this way of like making children say things that no child would ever say. And that's why I loved Test of Courage, because Justina is so good at writing like relatable characters, and yet they sound like children having a cow because things aren't going their way. And it's great. And I love that about all of the characters just feel very original and very new and fresh, and they have their own voices. And you have Martian Rowe, who finally addresses things that I've always wanted addressed in the Star Wars like universe, which is colonization. Knowing that I am a historian and also getting my master's in anthropology, like I'm very fascinated in culture and how different groups interact with each other. And Star Wars, knowing that George Lucas also was an anthropologist, that he had taken a large portion of his courses in college was anthropology, and looking at how he created, like, it's not perfect. There's a lot of flaws in some of his creations for species and stuff, but the core of how they interact is there. But we've never really tackled this idea of colonization and the Republic and the Jedi and like indoctrination and like all of these really hard topics. And it finally feels like we're getting it. And it's not perfect. Nothing ever is. But hearing a character be like, you like are advertising this freedom that isn't actually free, and that you're coming out here and acting like you're claiming new lands, but these there's already like a system here. This is already, we don't need a starlight beacon. We don't need your like, oh, we're gonna help you. And like if you know that nothing really improves in the Outer Rim. Like we know how the Outer Rim is. There's still places like Sorgan, which is like very serfdom, very medieval feeling, krill farming, not even a trade port. So what exactly can these, we are the Republic people do?
It's great hearing, sorry to cut you off, but
no, go
when
for
I
it.
read first Test of Courage, you're 100% right. I went into that book. Yeah, it's a mid-grade book. Doesn't matter. The themes are there. And like you said, there's a part that ship is breaking apart, and then someone says, oh, hold on to your butts. I says, oh, I can help with that. Holding the ship, not the holding of butts. Which is a very 12-year-old thing to say. But then it goes to a character that's dealing with the loss of his master, another with the loss of his father, how all these emotions come into play, the dark side, which are very adult themes in Star Wars, not watered down for children, but still navigating that line that the kids can understand and adults can relate to. So Justina, like you said, did a great job with those characters. Light of the Jedi, what's funny, I'm not a historian and I read things. So I'm just reading it and I'm like, yes, we are the Republic and I love Jedi and we're going to go hell. And then I start seeing everyone's take on it. Yes, great. But is she really talking about, is Lena so? Can you read it
She's
between the
suspicious.
lines? And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm from Puerto Rico. We were colonized. We're part of Spain first, and then the Spanish-American War came, and now we're part of the U.S., but not really. Wait a minute. So it takes time. Well, people need to, dude, just wake up. But it's great. And then Light of the Jedi was awesome. Into the Dark's my favorite one. And then Martian Rowe comes in, and he's this great character that everyone gravitates to. All right, so first, thanks Natalie for saying that I always look good. I try. I shave at least. I shave today, so at least that's something. Um, so okay, let's talk. It's been 40 minutes, so I guess we gotta talk about Mandalorian season 2 at some point. So let's go ahead and when we go back today, we are doing, and it's funny because the name of your show is Let's Talk About Star Wars. Usually, when I start the main portion of my show, I always say Let's Talk Star Wars. So now it feels a little bit awkward because it feels like I'm stealing your stuff. But if you guys are ready, I know I'm ready. Maggie thinks she's ready. Let's talk Star Wars. And today in Star Wars Rewind, we're revisiting The Mandalorian Season 2 with our great guest, Maggie Lovitt of Let's Talk About Star Wars. So, Mandalorian Season 2. It's been about 3 months since it ended, almost 3 months. And I haven't watched it since then. I saw it a few times when it came out, and I haven't revisited it. I started thinking, is the honeymoon phase over? We all loved it when it came out. Now everyone's focused on WandaVision. Is Mandalorian, was it as good as we all remember? So let's talk about it a little bit. So first off, what were your thoughts coming into season 2 of The Mandalorian? Were you hyped about it? Were you a little bit worried?
I was worried, but not about the actual show. I was very worried about how much a certain character was going to be in it and how much harm that was going to do. And so I was very nervous every single week. I was like, who's going to be in this week's episode? Are we going to see it? And so every week it was that anxiety. But overall, I was excited. I love Pedro Pascal. So I was excited. Very hopeful that we were going to have the helmet come off. I everything. I had done a video for Let's Talk About Star Wars, with all the things that I wanted for the new season. I got almost everything. The one thing though, I was not excited about Boba Fett, because there had been all of those rumors about Tamora Morrison, who I love, but I was just not excited for the idea of Boba Fett. I am now wearing a Boba Fett shirt, so opinions have changed.
So I was a little bit nervous because of how positive everything was after season 1. Everyone loved it. And as it happens with a lot of things, after the first one comes out, a contained story, then they just want to blow it up and make it this huge galactic popcorn thing. So I was afraid they was going to lose what made that show, which was Mando's story. He's growing up, dealing with Grogu and all that. So I was afraid, especially with all the rumors out there of Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, Captain Rex. They were I did a show and went through all that cast, rumor cast. There were 14 new characters. I was afraid they were going too big and forget what the show was going to about. It's going to be a guest of the week. And then, they hired the director of Extraction from Netflix to be a stunt coordinator, a second unit director. So it's just going to be all action. It's not going to be the same. And then the season comes, and of course, it's awesome. I want to say it's better than the first one, but all those fears kind of went away after the first episode. And I just rewatched most of it this past week, and it's still there. This show is great, and we'll keep talking about it. But leaks and rumors, I know it's something, this new culture out there. I guess I don't even have to ask you. Is there a thin line that you think, because right now the latest one is Ezra going to be in Ahsoka, and then Mina Mossad is now rumored to be in the running for the part of Ezra. So is there a thin line between all these leaks and rumors, or just let the Lucasfilm and Disney be the ones to officially announce it?
Yes, I would prefer that it comes through the trades. So through Variety or the Hollywood Reporter. I prefer that because there's no doubt. It's a confirmation. You know what's coming. It's come through the proper channels. There's no like room for people to get excited and then be disappointed. Also, just as somebody who works in the film industry, there is nothing worse than having your product spoiled. Okay. Technically, Wonder Woman 1984 sat on Reddit for a year and a half, the entire movie. Having people message me and be like, is this true? And me having to be like, I guess you're going to have to wait and see. And then being like, well, this sounds terrible. And me being like, well, you're not not entirely wrong. But it's gutting because you put so many hours of your life into something, and then somebody runs their mouth, and then somebody's monetizing it, and it doesn't, like, for me personally, I don't like it like at all. And when you hear people like John talking about how hard they fought to make sure that things like Luke and the child's name were secrets, and yet even Grogu got spoiled. Like, Grogu's name was out 2 weeks sitting on Reddit. Nobody believed it, but it was there. And it's so, for me, like, as somebody who's just seen like how frustrating it is when like the product of your work gets leaked, like, just let it come through the proper channels and like wait to be excited. Like, I liked the Luke thing because it completely blindsided me. I had not imagined something like that happening. I loved it. If that had come out weeks beforehand, I wouldn't have been excited.
I didn't expect Luke. I was on board. It's gonna be Ezra. They mentioned Thrawn already. They're gonna. He's not.
That's who I thought.
I thought no Jedi was gonna show up. I think no Jedi is gonna show up, and the show is gonna end cliffhanger with Ezra and Thrawn somewhere in the outer regions. There you go. That's season 3. And then you see the X-Wing, and okay, we know who it is, and everyone's going nuts. And we'll get to that part. We'll get to Boba Fett and all that. So Disney Plus, when they started, and for season 1, where they said, we're not doing binging, we're doing weekly release. And I was bummed because I'm used to Netflix, like a lot of people. So no, just give, because I don't binge everything. I don't have time to watch 8 episodes one day. It usually takes me a few weeks anyways. But then they decide to do the weekly release instead. And now you see now the divide. A lot of people are for it, especially with WandaVision. A lot of people talking even with Mandalorian. If everything had been dropped at once, will we be talking about Bo-Katan, or just focusing on Luke and the ending? So you think that this might be the new normal?
I hope it is.
But do you think more are gonna go that route?
I really think that I don't understand what I guess I do understand. Like, streaming became a thing, Netflix dominated it, but then everybody started doing it, and so the whole binging thing was less appealing because so many new things were coming out all at once, and people just don't have the time to stream an entire season of 4 shows in the weekend. And so I think that if people would just like let it happen, going back to you can watch it whenever you want to because it's on there, but that it's coming out on a specific day. It helps generate articles. It's talked about everywhere. You have a week of speculation. People are constantly talking about it, and it doesn't fade. Like, I can't remember the last time I saw people talking about Stranger Things. Like,
it's a great show, but
and I could never get into it because I had the entire thing spoiled for me because I was busy and I couldn't watch it. And I logged onto Twitter like 3 days after it dropped, and everything was on my feed. And I was just like, and so I never got into it. And I feel like a lot of people who are busy, like you said, you wait until the evening. Like, it's hard to keep up with like all of this constant content. And I mean, it worked in the 90s. It worked in the early 2000s. It worked in the mid 2000s. There was TV shows that lasted for 10 seasons. And I think a lot of that's because it's constantly talked about and there's a name permeance. I mean, except in the instance of Game of Thrones, which nobody wants to talk about that. And that's a different story. That's missing your landing.
Let's not talk about Game of Thrones. That goes somewhere. Which is funny because we're going to talk about Game of Thrones real quick. I didn't get into Game of Thrones till about season 4. Which I said, okay, I guess I'll watch it because everyone's talking about this. I didn't have HBO at that point because with kids, you don't watch TV. So I dropped cable. So I found it online somewhere and had 2 weeks off from work. And I stayed with my daughter when she was still young. She was still a kid. I mean, she's still a kid, but she was a baby. So I started watching it, and I knew something called the Red Wedding. So the Red Wedding, and I didn't even know what it was. So when that episode came and the door shut, because I'm thinking the Red Wedding is going to be Joffrey's wedding, because that's the big one. The door shut, the inside is all kind of red and glowing. I'm like, oh no, is this a red wedding? Are they gonna kill my guy, the king of the north? And then that happens. So anyway, so yes, I was distraught.
That was the first episode of Game of Thrones my mom watched because I watched it, and we were on vacation, and I was like, we have to get to the hotel. Like, we had a hotel that had it streaming, so like I wouldn't have to like watch it on my computer. And I was like, it's the red wedding. Like, I don't want to miss it. And my mom was like, oh, a wedding. And then
No.
she was like, this is what you watch every week?
So and then I watched everything. After that, I finished all 8 seasons. And my wife, which she doesn't like this type of show, she started watching the first episode, because then we got HBO. She started watching season 1 as I was finishing up season 8, as it was coming on live. So,
oh my gosh.
And then I watched everything with her, and I kind of, just be ready. And then that episode came, and then she wasn't too happy about it. So our friend Brian is here. How you doing, Brian? From Pink Mills. And hi, Alberto. Hello, Maggie. I can't stay too long, but I want to say hello because I saw your word live. Well, thank you, Brian. It's always nice when you're here. And he promoted the show. He said he was here a few months ago. And I'll say, Brian, because you're here. I always like messing with Brian's a great guy. I've been fortunate he was here. He wasn't one of our Mandalorian talks. I also was there. Your video, Brian, still the only one that has a thumbs down on my channel. So thank you. You gotta bring you more. Yes, I know. I'm sure he knows why. I love you, Brian. You gotta be very. The only video of like 40 videos I have one thumbs down is Brian. Why?
I might be your next one. I seem to have people who like to follow me from stream
You'll be my
stream.
first negative comment also. I'm sure there'll be some negative comments after this. Doesn't matter. It's
on the internet. It's fine.
Yeah. So what I wanted to go into all these streaming binging or weekly releases. We thought if Disney Plus keeps the weekly release, which most likely they're gonna keep, do you think it will come a time that we'll have multiple Star Wars shows running at the same time? We have like 8 announced, and they can't just be 2 months and then the other one drops. Do you think we'll have 2 shows running, one Wednesday, one Friday, or something like that?
Either we'll have 2 dropping on the same day, which will be insane, or they will pair up Marvel with Star Wars.
Okay.
So that they have a Marvel show and a Star Wars show dropping. But even then, like I feel like they're going to try to pace themselves and find like the short periods of time that they have in between other shows to run things. And it's just going to be Fridays for the rest of our life. We have content to watch, which is insane.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I'm fine.
Yeah. All right. So let me see what else I got. So with all the characters that were introduced in season 2 of Mandalorian, were you surprised at all at how well the characters work? Because again, like I mentioned, I was afraid it was going to be guest of the week, but then we have Cobb Vanth, the first episode, which I didn't like. Let me don't say that. I've never read the Aftermath novel by Chuck Wendig, but I've heard about Cobb Vanth. Boba Fett has always been my favorite character, so now this guy has his armor, passing on as Boba Fett, being the Marshal. I'm like, no, I don't want that. And then, the first episode is called The Marshal. Okay, we get Cobb Vanth, and then Timothy Olyphant, awesome, and the whole Cobb Vanth storyline. I just watched it a few days ago, and it's a great episode, a great start to the season. Bo-Katan, everything else that comes by. So for me, they knocked it out of the park with all the characters. Cobb Vanth, not known too much by a lot of people, but it seemed to work well. Bo-Katan from Rebels, Clone Wars, and then everything else with Boba Fett, Luke at the end, and the new characters, Koska Reef, Axe Wolf, all those work really well, complementing Mando because they challenge him a lot. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that the characters were handled well, or do you have any issues with them?
No, I think they were handled really well. I don't have an issue with Character of the Week or Quest of the Week format. It harkens back to a lot of my favorite television shows growing up. Like I was a huge Xena fan, which very much was like Quest of the Week. Yeah. New character, small cameo of someone who's now super famous. Mm-hmm. Thinking about Carl Urban. But I think it works because the episodes are short. They're like 30 minutes long at most. You aren't really going at a fast pace. It's kind of leisurely. Like there's an undercurrent plot, but then you have these characters who work. I can't think of any other characters that they could have introduced last season that would have worked as well as these characters work. You have Bo-Katan, challenging Din's identity. You have Boba Fett, who's also posing this, like, here's an alternative way to be a Mandalorian. Like, very similar kind of story, different like style. You have, Ahsoka that's introducing this concept of the Jedi and not just wizards with lightsabers, and, challenging him at every corner. And that was all I wanted for Den. That was like my number one thing, was that I wanted him to meet other Mandalorians that like hung out with their helmets off and make him be like, oh my God, I was in a cult. That was all I wanted. That's all I wanted. And I got it. So
first, Brian, for you always, we'll bring X Wolf, we'll mention it. For you, Brian, we'll do anything. So yes, I feel the same way. Like I mentioned at first, I was a little bit nervous of this season because there's too many characters, but all of them were because they challenged Dean and they moved his story forward. It wasn't, oh, look, there's Bo-Katan here. You remember her? There was a reason, especially like you said, 2 minutes into it, the three of them take their helmet off, and he's like, whoa, you're not real Mandalorians. And then, no, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Which a lot of people said, Din Djarin he doesn't know anything about the Star Wars world. He's just walking blindly with a helmet on.
He's truly an audience insert. He is there to help audiences that aren't super into it understand Star Wars, and like he's a gateway character basically.
So was there anything, and doesn't have to be a surprise cameo or anything, but anything that really surprised you about the season? For me, even though it does involve one of the new characters in Bo-Katan, which I knew from Clone Wars and Rebels, wasn't a super fan of her, but I did know about her. But seeing her live action, the way she was portrayed with two other Mandalorians in Axe Wolf and Koska Reeves, it worked so well just seeing a different type of Mandalorians on screen, because we had seen them in season 1, but they were just there to help him. You gotta escape, we'll hold this off. These are 3 Mandalorians working together in perfect unison, trying to bring Mando into it. But there was something about that for me changed my whole perspective about Mandalorians in general. I'm usually a Jedi guy. Just give me anything Jedi, I'm good for it. But this season, especially that second episode or third episode with them, just opened up my eyes to what a group of Mandalorians could do. And my love for Mandos in general just went over the roof. And okay, Jedi, you're good. I want to learn more about Mandalorians. And a lot of it had to do with that episode with Bo-Katan and the other 2. Something about that episode just was a surprise for me, which, yes, Bo-Katan, but was everything else around it. Like you said, we're so used to this is the way, don't take off your helmet. But once she brings into it, I was like Mando at that point. Well, you might be right. It might not just be what you heard from the armorer and you've been told for 20 years or 40 years. So that was a surprise for me, how much I gravitated to her and to the Mandalorians in general.
I think my biggest shock was Boba Fett. It's not like I hate the character. There's like very few characters I hate in the Star Wars universe. And he was just somebody that I thought was overhyped. Like I'd read the legends. Most of the Boba Fett fans I've interacted with have been very annoying. and there's just like my experience was just like, ugh, like when they hinted at him being in the first season, I was like, oh, great. The Boba Fett show. Like, interestingly, I had been kind of so blind to news that I thought The Mandalorian, like when it was first announced, was going to be about Boba Fett. And I was like, why?
Why? Wasn't it that Jon Favreau went to Disney and to look, Kathy Kennedy said, I want to do a Boba Fett show. And she said, no, we're going to do something different. And then it evolved from that. So,
and all the concept art is Boba Fett. And so like, I was so like, but then the tragedy happened. And
so let's talk about that.
Bringing Ming-Na back, Robert Rodriguez directing, who's like one of my all-time favorite directors. And then just there's so much about the way that Boba Fett was presented. And I feel like a lot of people, especially just interactions with like, you're a good Boba Fett fan, but like interactions with the people on the other side of the internet, they see Boba Fett as this like badass, like bounty hunter that like kills people, and they love that one comic book run that's not great. And they have like twisted this character into some sort of like self-insert that like I didn't relate to and I couldn't find any compassion for. But the instant that you learn that he saved Fennec's life instantly makes that character have a heart where you haven't seen any sign of that in like the Legends stuff. I mean, obviously in the Legends he has a wife, he has kids, like, but he's still he's a character that's evolved into where the fans have created him and put him on this pedestal. And so I finally was like, wait a second, this can work for me. I can wear Boba Fett merchandise.
Was
because
it that part as soon as you saw that you started thinking about it?
Yeah, like as soon as Fennec said that he had saved her after Toro Calican shooting her, I was like, okay, so that's like above and beyond the Call of Duty. Like he could have just been like, here, I'll take you into town and somebody can work on you. But no, he helped fix her, and then he offered her to continue to stay with him and work together, and they worked together very well. And so I was like, okay, there's more to this story. There's more to like, he's able to have connections and able to like be a good person. And I was like, this is all I needed. Like literally a few lines of dialogue was all I needed to see. And it really just goes to show how good the storytelling is in The Mandalorian, that in a show that's fairly quiet, the lines are very important. And the way that characters, I mean, and Tamora Morrison's amazing. I love him. And just the way that he was presented was finally something I cared about.
It's funny, again, going to how we relate to Star Wars in so many different ways, because after that episode, 95% of the people that didn't care about Boba Fett started getting interested in him and really, okay, I see how a character like this might work. For someone like me that has always been a Boba Fett fan, yes, because he was cool looking. So what? I collect toys because they're cool looking. So that was one of the reasons I gravitated to Boba Fett. And then finally seeing him in action now, kicking butt and then getting his armor back. So I'm saying, yeah, you see, he can be this badass. But then for the other half, or for some people like yourself, it's, yeah, that's cool. But look at this other thing that he did. And that's why you're now interested in him, interested in the book of Boba Fett. And I was going to bring this up later, but let's just bring it out. You and Arzu and everyone out there started with #Boneck, which I was, okay, we don't need to ship everyone. And then the post-credit scene came on. I'm like, okay, they got it. There's something there. So Boneck, where did all this came on, and is it gonna be on screen that we're gonna find out something between them is going on?
I'm hopeful. I'm happy to take anything, but I do want to say something funny. I'll say it here. I knew about the Book of Boba Fett for almost 4 weeks before it was announced, because I have weird connections to, I'm not going to say who, I have weird connections to the Mandalorian through my tiny little town in Virginia. And so I had somebody tell me like, hey, if you want to use this like as a story, run with it. Like say that you got this rumor, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I didn't tell anybody. I asked like a couple friends. I was like, hey, do you want any like potential like spoilers? And like one friend was like, yeah. And so I told them that I had heard there was going to be a show with Boba Fett and Fennec Shand, like on December, I think it was December 1st, I told them. And they're like, I don't see that happening. Like, I just don't see that. And I was like, okay, well, I know this is true. But I didn't feel the need to like spoil it because like nobody else was talking about it. And I was like, I'm really the only person who knows this. So I'm just like not going to ruin it.
When I get clicks on Twitter.
So excited. I was like, I don't want to ruin this for them. That's like going to be a great thing. And then the Disney Investor Day call happened and it never got mentioned. And I was like, that's so weird. But like we had a week and then like the show was going to come out and I was like, and then I watched it and I didn't watch the credits because I don't like watching credits. And I logged onto Twitter and I was like, oh, it was such a great episode, blah, blah, blah. And Arzu was like, please go back and watch the end credits right now. And I was like, okay. And then it happened and I was just like, wow. It was more than I could ever have like pictured for that. Oh, it was so great.
I had a similar one. Not that I don't have no connections, but so I watched the episode. I didn't watch the credits because for 2 seasons there'll be no mid-credit since Star Wars doesn't do this. So I'm texting my brother. I have 2 brothers. My oldest, and both are older than me. So if I'm older, even older. Hopefully they watch this. You're old guys. So we're texting back and forth how awesome the episode was. Same thing. I'm not mentioning anything about Boba Fett, and then my brother goes, "Oh yeah, and that post-credit scene." I'm like, "What? It's a post-credit scene? Yeah, go watch it right now." I'm like, put it back. And don't. They come. She kicks ass. He comes in, kills before. So I'm like, oh, yes.
The 2 of them sitting on that throne. I was just like,
and then she's just there, and like, okay, they got it. Boneck is happening. So Yes, so it was awesome. So before we go, so Dale talking about Boba Fett says so misunderstood. Boba isn't a great character, but he's what the Mandalorians are based on. Plus all the things he did in a 7-year-old head after the movie. For those who got the action figure, yes, that was me. Brian from Pink Milk is saying honestly that Boba Fett from Mando was a good stepping up from his portrayal in the Clone Wars. He learned about the importance of having a heart and helping your team from Asajj Ventress.
Yep.
And Outer Rim is giving you, Andrew's giving you a little props. Props
Thank
to you
you
for not leaking it. Many people who have spoiled it for the sake of clicks. Yes.
I take no pleasure in that.
Yeah, it's one of those, I always said if I knew someone, I would be, yes, just tell me. I won't ruin it for other people. I would like to know some things, not everything, but. So, yes, Book of Boba Fett this year, December. I can't wait to. I can't wait for that show.
I'm so excited for it.
So, let's talk. We're talking about Mandalorian, so we gotta talk about it anyways, eventually, even though I don't want to spend too much time with Gina Carano and Cara Dune, but you said when the season was coming, you were dreading those episodes. Were you able to separate the actor from the character when watching the episodes, or it was just ruined as soon as they came on?
It was hard. I tend to try to be that person to be like, oh, I can separate the person from the art or whatever. But I feel like I was too close to the situation, and I was having too many conversations with people that it like truly affected them as a person. And I was like, oh, like being able to even just say like, oh, I can separate it. I felt like that was a privilege because it like didn't personally affect me. So I had that ability to be like, oh, whatever. But honestly, like in retrospect, the character's not that important to the storyline. Like in concept, really cool. Like could have gone really cool places, but how it ended up unfolding, looking back at it, doesn't actually work as well as I had hoped it would. And so maybe there had been a plan to make it more fleshed out. But I just cringed through like most of the scenes, especially like at a point like when the article came out in Variety that I was mentioned in, and then she blocked me on Twitter, and then I was like, okay, well now it's personal.
Now I know.
Now I know. But yeah, it was weird, and like I had really liked the character of Cara Dune initially. Like I had been working on a cosplay, I'd spent like $300 on it, and I wish I had that $300 now to just donate somewhere instead. But you know, my enjoyment is not worth other people's comfort. So
okay. So Brian said it now. Thanks, Brian. Oh, that's not it. Sorry. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Anyway, Brian, there you go. Brian, thanks for coming. You'll finish the show later. Thanks. It's always nice when Brian's here. So I'll say, I'm privileged enough, like you said, to try to separate. And I said, okay, I'm going to separate the character. I'm just going to watch it. And it was fine. Nothing groundbreaking, but it worked for the episode that she was in. Everything else that happened this past couple of weeks and months, when I watched it this past week, then it was a little bit different and one of the interactions I had on Twitter recently when all the fire Cara Dune things happened a few weeks ago, oh, you just want her to be fired. No, I wish that she would apologize and, hey, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. But then she doubled down. And at that point, it's, okay, whatever, just get this character out of here. So watching it again in retrospect, it was a lot harder separating everything that had happened with the character of Cara Dune. Do you think, would you want this character to be recast? I know rumors out there saying it's not going to happen, but do you wish they would have done something else with the character with another actress, or just get rid of it, let's not worry about it?
Honestly, I don't think it's fair to any actress to have to carry that baggage, because that character is always going to have a stain on it, essentially. It's not like somebody was like mean and got fired and like we replaced them like, you know, sitcoms used to do, and like personalities just didn't mesh. Like I think it luckily where they ended the character unintentionally in a place where she can be gone and never have to be mentioned again. Like they don't have to say she's dead. They don't have to say, you know, she went to a planet and forgot to wear a mask. Like none of that has to happen. They can just never mention her again, and it doesn't affect the plot at all. And I would love to see a character like Koska Reeves, which I really liked the concept of that character. Somebody like that to be introduced. Like, or we can just get, you know, Lucy Lawless can come in and play a character that's very similar. I am Cara Cynthia's cousin. I wasn't on the planet. I too am alive.
It's funny, when all this was coming out, was happening before the season started, I always thought, they're just going to finish up her arc in season 2 and then we're not going to hear anything else about her. So Star Wars doesn't even have to make a comment about it. They'll just finish her up. She won't be in season 3. They won't have to get anyone mad. Everything's done. But then when the investor days they came in and they mentioned the Rangers of the New Republic, I said, oh, well, I guess she's going to be there because they're setting her up to be a Ranger, even Marshall Dune at the end.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she couldn't keep her mouth shut, and then they had to make a comment like, she doesn't work here anymore. So
that was the
yeah.
That's just like
sorry.
And that whole thing killed me too, because finding out that they had given her every opportunity to apologize, that they gave her all of the tools, like they were rooting for her to come through. And a lot of places aren't going to try to set you up with a panel of people to talk to you and like educate you. Like that's just not going to happen. And so they tried.
So Dale is asking if we think that post might have been misread or misinterpreted. If it's one, maybe, but when it's constantly doubling down, then and like you said, you've had a chance to apologize and then you just make fun of it. I just put a little fun thing on my header. Well, that's the problem. Just don't put anything.
Yeah.
So I think
so many people do that. Like you could just not say anything.
No. I've written a lot of tweets. I said, this might be misconstrued. I'm not even going to try it. So
yeah.
All right. So that's that for So, and again, we're past the 1 hour and we still get a few. So I'm going to try to cut it down a little bit so we can get to our fan questions. Dean's character arc and his journey through the whole season. Was this something you expected? I'm not going to ask if you think it was handled well, because at least for me and for everyone, it was a great character arc from when it started season 1 to where it ended. I don't know. Did it surprise you how emotional and how much he connected, I guess, with Grogu as the season went on, and how that relationship made all of us feel just watching it, how much we connected to the both of them?
I think I saw it happening from the very first season, because essentially his arc was handled exactly how I had like theorized, just based off of what we had seen and contextually how a story arc like that would be handled. Mm-hmm. I am a huge fan of the Razor Crest getting blown up. Controversial opinion. As soon as they announced that big model, I was like, Razor Crest is going up in flames this season. I knew it. I just knew it. And I loved it because it's very much like every single good action film. And yes, I'm going to say Taken is a good action film, but it's that concept of, in order to propel a character forward, they have to lose something. And so you take their child, you usually in one of these, like, your kid gets kidnapped action movies, your house gets shot up in some form or fashion, your house gets blown up, your car gets blown up, you lose something that is your home. Mm-hmm. And so to have the Razor Crest get blown up while he loses Grogu is just perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing. That character arc was awesome. I always thought that Grogu was going to be taken at some point. I thought it was going to be at the end of the season. That's how it's going to end. Because I always thought either the Grogu storyline or the Darksaber storyline has to come to a close at the end of the season. And I always thought it was going to be Darksaber. Sorry, my kid opened the door. Now the bird is chirping. But I didn't expect the tragedy. Like, you still have 2.5 episodes to go when Grogu is taken. So that was a huge surprise. And then the other 2 episodes are great. Seeing everything that happens in those 2 episodes and the ending. Let's talk about the ending real quick, because a lot of people gravitate to Luke, and yet that was a great surprise. It was a great action scene, the hallway scene, of course. But that ending, him having to say goodbye to Grogu, which watching the episode, it hit me a little bit. My daughter was crying, so that's why I got a little bit more emotional. It was more because of her. But then the next day, talking about it here on the show, I just broke down as a parent, having to imagine just giving your son away, because when you finally, that's your son for the first time, and now you're giving away, even though it's for a better future, same as Shmi did with Anakin in episode 1. When I watched that when I was 19 years old, it didn't mean that much. Now watching our mother giving her son away, and now Dean giving Grogu away, and the look between them and the music that was playing was one of his best work. It devastated me talking about it, that a Mandalorian and a little puppet basically make you cry, a 40-year-old
Weep.
man cry, weep, and just tears of joy. Not joy because you're suffering for both of them, but it's what you thought was going to happen. I don't know.
I
don't
knew I
have
was
a
going to be
question.
devastated. I knew I was going to be devastated somehow. I was either he was going to be taken in the last episode, or we are going to lose that connection
Yeah.
in the last episode. I loved it. I know like the whole Luke thing was like controversial. Some people loved it or hated it. I am not a huge Luke fan. Like I like him as a character, but he's not like a character I like seek out content from. I cried over Luke. Like as soon as like the X-Wing appeared, because I watch in the mornings with my mom was like, it's Mark Hamill. And so that just speaks to why Luke was the perfect Jedi to come, because even people who are not, my mom has no idea who Ezra Bridger is. She didn't have any idea who Ahsoka was. But she instantly recognized Luke. She instantly recognized the green lightsaber. And so that's why he was perfect, because it brings in these people who are just casual fans that saw the original movies, saw the others, maybe when they're rerunning on TNT, and then are catching this every Friday morning to be part of the water cooler talk. Yeah. Luke was just perfect. And I think that added to the emotion, because I was already like emotional about like, oh my God, Luke is here. That means the child is going to go. So by the time that actual scene showed up, I was just like, I'm a mess. And Pedro's just incredible.
He did a great job. Again, just his voice work in the show, it's incredible. It's awesome. From the episode before when he has to take his helmet. And that's when I started, the length that he will go for the length we go for the people that we love. He never takes his helmet off, and here he has to take it in front of a bunch of strangers, the Imperials, because he has to find out what the child is to be able to save him. And of course, at the end, the child finally getting able to see his face. It's like you said, we're just weeping. I haven't watched. I said I watched most of it. I haven't watched the finale yet because I don't know what's going to happen. I think I'm going to be fine. Probably not.
You probably won't be.
Yeah. So maybe one of these days, if I'm by myself, I'm feeling a little bit down, I'll just put it on and just let it all flow. So let's end this so we can go to our questions. So what are your, not expectations, but what are your feelings? What are you hoping for season 3, I guess?
Reclamation of Mandalore.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Ideally, I would love to see Din become the ruler of Mandalore, because the idea of finally a foundling being the leader of Mandalore is so powerful to me, just because we know all of the stuff that was said about foundlings not really being Mandalorians. And like, we've already got that kind of being set up with Bo-Katan's friction with Boba Fett. So that concept's already been introduced to casual viewers who aren't familiar with the ins and outs of Mandalore like you and I are. So I just think the idea of that being like the end of, because eventually eventually we're not going to have any more Mandalorian, like the show's going to be over. And so I feel like that would be a neat conclusion to come to, especially with this idea that like Ahsoka, the Book of Boba Fett, the Rangers of the High Republic New Republic. High Republic on my brain. That those are all converging to something big. This reclamation of Mandalore could be that big thing. So that's what I want.
So very similar. I think that season 3 is going to be that. It's going to be more Mandalorian, more Mandalore, what it means to be a true Mandalorian. History about the Darksaber, how did Bo-Katan lose and all that stuff. So I think it's going to be a great season. Do you think we'll see Grogu in season 3, or when do you think we'll see him again?
I don't think that they're going to go very far without their cash cow. So I feel like something will happen. Because obviously they're not going to kill him, and what we know happens to the temple. So at some point he's going to come back, and I don't know if something's going to happen to Din. I don't know if something else is going to happen with these clones that they're working with, but something's going to happen that he's going to have to come back. And I mean, hey, they might reintroduce us to the Mandalorian with time has passed. Din's been out hanging out with, Boba Fett, hanging out with Bo-Katan, trying to figure out who he is, and then, hey, come pick up your kid. He's eating the other classmates.
Gotta get a new ship first to get out of. All of them don't fit on the Slave One. Boba Fett is busy reclaiming the Hut Cartel, so he needs to get a ship somehow or somewhere. So we'll see. Very excited for season 3. Next year, I guess, is when it comes out.
A long time.
I know. We have Book of Boba Fett to hold us between the show. So, all right. So that does it for a talk on Mandalorian Season 2. There's a lot more we can talk about it, but let's go ahead. Let's see. Let's get some Rebel thoughts in here. What our fans are saying. Some of your questions out there on the Rebel thoughts. So let me find this real quick, as I always don't have things ready all the time. All right. So our first question comes from our friend, which actually he's going to be here in 2 weeks. So Andres Alvarez, one of the co-hosts of 60 Minutes at AAA_Photog, says, still loving the series because it stands by itself well. Question, what was your first thought when you saw Boba had repainted his armor between episodes? For me, that was the biggest tease that a Boba show was in the works in a galaxy where the Falcon is in perpetual disrepair. So I loved it. This is one of my favorite shots in all the season is when you got something flying back there.
I had geese flying by over my house currently.
That's nice. Geese are good. I guess.
Summertime.
Yes. So in episode 7, I guess it is, when they go pick up, I just forgot the name of the character, Bill Burr's character. We go pick him up in this junkyard. You see Slave 1, and then he just walks out that ramp, all new paint with the black scarf, the black long pants or skirt or Hawaiian, whatever, his whole getup. It just blew me away. Yes, I love you again. I love his whole look. I want that somehow. So I know some people were, I prefer the beaten up one. Some people say, well, that's Boba Fett kind of reclaiming the armor because Cobb Vanth had it, so he had to start from scratch or something like that. But just visually, I love the look of it. Where did he get the paint? I don't care. It looked awesome.
He has an arts and crafts room on the Slave one.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, we'll go with that. He spent a lot of years on Tatooine by himself. And if he found a way to help Fennec Shan, I'm sure he can find a way between Tython and the other planet to paint his armor. So I love the way it looked when he first came down. What were your thoughts when you saw him?
My initial thoughts were not PG-13, but mostly because of our group chat, Arzu and me and Candace and Norel. But I loved it because I am obviously like a huge fan of Mandalorians, and I have the Bounty Hunter's Guidebook, and knowing stuff from the expanded universe, knowing that repainting your armor means rededicating yourself to a cause. Okay. And so the idea that he painted it because he's taken on this cause for Den, and that's to show that he's committed to it. And that's has canon context, at least in the terms of Legends, that the colors that he, repainted it and freshened it up. Again, it made me feel more about Boba Fett because it was like a visual proof that he is actively trying to help. Because I know people are like, oh, he's going to betray Den. And I was like, no, he's not. Because Mandalorians do not repaint their armor to betray people. That's not, has nobody remembered Sabine.
Yeah, and it goes to what he told Dean when they're on Tython, and Dean tells Fennec Shan, hey, I owe you for last time, just get out of here. And she said, no. We said we're going to help you. We're here to stay. And then by the end of the episode, he shows his chain code to Dean. See, okay, that armor belongs to you. Thank you. We're good. No, I just told you I'm staying with you till we find the child. Till the child is safely back in your hands. So no way he's gonna betray them. And just hearing what you said, I gotta go back to my copy of the Bounty Hunter's Guide and see, because I forgot. There's a lot of things that
there's so much.
I know.
And I think it's also in, I can't remember the name of the book, but it's when Jaina is associating with the bounty hunters and somebody's talking to her about the painting the armor stuff back in Legends.
All right, we'll have to find it. All right, and our second thought, this isn't a question, it's more a thought on the whole season. It's from 3 Men and a Baby Yoda podcast, and they write, my tear ducts have not fully replaced their tanks. This was a very special moment for many in Star Wars, and I love coming back to it when I need a feel-good moment. So, like I was just saying, I haven't rewatched the ending, but having watched 3/4 of the season again this past week, it still holds up. Everything still works. Do you feel yourself going back to either a certain episode or just rewatching the season over and over?
This is going to be my dark confession. I have a really hard time rewatching things,
Okay.
unless it's comedy or Rogue One. Like I just my attention like span is poor. I can rewatch things like Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance. I don't know what it is, if it's just cartoons or easier for me to just like put on and enjoy. But The Mandalorian involves like a lot of thought process, and so it's not an easy thing for me to just like pop on. But I rewatch certain clips. That's what YouTube is glorious for. I mostly rewatch stuff from the first season. I particularly like the Omira scenes, so I rewatched some of that. But the Boba Fett scenes are actually the ones I've gone back to. I really like the tragedy. I did watch that one twice, but that's because I'm a huge fan of Robert Rodriguez and his style, and the fact that we had the Desperado flip just brings me
that was awesome. When I saw
so
it,
much
I've
joy.
seen this before. I've seen this, and I went back YouTube again, and I found the Desperado clip, and yes, I knew it. Awesome. Look, it was great 20 years ago, or even more, 25 years, and it's still great now with Fennec Shand. Yeah, it was awesome. So same thing. I rarely go back and watch a whole season of something, so I hadn't watched it since it ended. But since we were talking about it, so let me go back to see my thoughts about the whole season have changed. No, it still works.
Yeah.
All right, so that actually brings an end to our show, to our Talk of Mandalorian Season 2, and everything else that we talked about today. So again, Maggie, thanks a lot for being here. Great always talking to you. Where can our friends find you?
You can find me on Twitter over at Maggie of the Town, and all of my links for all of my various pursuits are found in my link tree and my bio.
All right, so if you're watching this, you know where to find me, but I always forget something on my show. Don't forget, if you're watching this, like the video, comment later if you're watching on the replay. Make sure you subscribe. I've said it every week for the past month. Once we get to 100 subscribers, we'll do something special. We'll do a commentary video, or we'll do a live watch or something. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Radio Rebel Pod, and my link tree also is down there, so make sure to follow that. Again, in the description of the video, you can find more about the link to the GoFundMe for Trans Life for Human Rights. So make sure to give that a look. And as always, thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Stay safe, be safe, and may the Force be with you.
Incoming transmission. Radio Rebellion.